What is going on, everybody, and welcome to episode 56. I am your host, Marcus, and in this episode, we are talking about a new year. Yes, 2020 has finally finished. It's been a crazy year, especially after last year. The whole pandemic thing just kind of really, I think, really put people in a new perspective in life. And coming into this year, I don't know about you, maybe you feel like there was a lot of things you wanted to do, but felt still held back from a lot of the different things that the pandemic essentially caused. The pandemic really changed a lot of, it's just changed everybody's life. I mean, uh, it's not to say that anybody's life didn't get changed. I think it dramatically changed things, being on lockdown and understanding what we were able to do, what we weren't able to do, and then realize just trying to navigate life, still try to live your life, still trying to work, still try to do all these things. And coming into this year, I've talked about having a lot of different perspectives in life, especially over the past couple of years because of my father, uh, but not just my father, just around that particular section. It was probably about a 6 month span. There was so much. I think anything that could have gone wrong went wrong in that year. I was getting divorced, right? My father passed away. I was having heart issues. I was having issues with my job. I was having all these other different issues, and there was just so much stress that I had my first panic attack. And so it really changed my perspective on life and what was a priority in my life. And so from that point, I made dramatic changes in my life. And then come to this year and then getting hit. And I talk about this all the time about how, when you look back in your life, you can essentially piece together why stuff works. And and amongst all the chaos, it's kind of crazy how everything's been pieced together almost the way it should. Like there was a reason why uh, this happened. There's a reason why that happened that caused X, Y, and Z. And you realize that the way everything happened, because that's when my father died. I took time off. I came back to work. I was working, and then right, I looked and I got a new place to stay. And right before then, um, the pandemic hit, and then all chaos broke loose, and we were locked down. And then going into this year, it was just another like aha moment. Like you need to do something here. Like you need to capitalize on what is going on. And for me, coming into this year, there was a lot I wanted to prove to myself. If this was a journey that I really wanted to do, I really had to do something more with it. I talk about investments and I talk about how I actively trade investments. That's primarily what I've been doing, and it's been working really well for me. And I never thought possible that I'd be able to make the transition that I did, but I ended up leaving my programming job and going into active investing and going into creating Discover Ignites and going like full time on these things and realizing that it was very scary. And I remember that particular moment coming into this year, even starting the year, I had a plan. I wanted to create a course. I wanted to write a book, which is something that I did, but I have not finished. And the reason for that being, I mean, I'm not a person to just come up with an excuses because I felt like my story, it's not completed yet. And what I'm writing, it doesn't feel like complete to me. And for me, when I talk about, following your destination and stuff like that and coming up with like objectives throughout the year, it's important to know that things change. And if it doesn't feel right, just don't do it. That's just the way I am. I don't There doesn't need to be an excuse. If it doesn't feel right, just don't do it. And for me, again, like creating the course, writing the book, like I've written like 3 different books, and when I wrote it, it didn't feel like it was the book that I really wanted it to be. And I've told one more of like a storytelling kind of book, and I've told the other one more as like pure like factual kind of book, almost like a how to reset your mindset kind of thing. And the thing is for me, it's got to be something that really, when I was writing it, it was calling to me, but it wasn't that really like gripping. It wasn't gripping me. And for me, like I really have to be like gripped by it. And so I was like, I don't think now is the time. And so, that being said, it's not saying I'm just disregarding it. I want to continue doing it, but I think there's a moment. And when I talk, what I've really been emphasizing this year is just going off of intuition. And that is really what I've learned over the past year, is just really go off your intuition and seeing where it takes you. Because I talk, one of my favorite books is Michael Saylor and his book about the untethered soul and following intuition. You don't know anything but the next step. And, for a lot of people, that is scary. For myself, you would have asked me that 5, 10 years ago, it would have been scary. I would have been like, there's no way I'm doing that. And now it's like, I've seen things in a different light. And when you see things in a different light, you realize that you have to take risk. Yes, you have to take managed risk. I'm not saying just go out there and do something crazy, but you take some calculated risk. You have to do that to be able to make progress in life. You have to do that. You have to make sacrifices, right? You want to get in shape, you have to make sacrifices. You want to get a promotion, you have to make sacrifices, whether that's stay later or whether that is giving up your free time and upgrading your skills, or whatever the case is. Maybe it's taking a leap into entrepreneurship. These things are important, and intuition with that is what you should be doing. And there's a lot of different things. The book and the course were the two things I wanted to really do this year, and I've essentially done both. I just haven't published my book, and I did publish my course, but I'm not the marketing guy. I don't like to go out there and push things. That's just not who I am. And the course, right? This is the thing about entrepreneurship, is some things will work, some things won't. And I just don't think it was the right platform to do it. There was a lot of things that I was trying to teach that a lot of people, I think, during the time just aren't interested. And so, going on this path, it's just like everything else in life, especially being, anything I've ever done, is even if it's artistic style, which is something I've picked up more this year, or if it's, looking at creating anything in life, you're going to fail, or any objective you want to do in life, you're going to fail multiple times, more before than you actually win. But you realize that one win makes up for all the losses. And so when you're okay with that, then you go forward and you take the risk. And so this year was that way. I've proven to myself that I can manage myself and be able to take care of myself. And then I got to a point in the beginning of this year, I was doing really well in everything that I was doing. And so I said to myself, now it's either now or never. Like, there's not a better time. There's never a better time. And I think that is one of the biggest misconceptions you can wait for, and something I press so hard, and something I really wish people would do more of, is to realize you're waiting for something specific to happen, and you don't know what, but you're waiting for something specific to happen. You have to realize that whatever that thing is not going to happen. You have to change it. You have to go out and do it. And even as scary as it can be, you have to go do it, or it's not going to happen. You're going to be stuck. And for a long time, I was stuck in a lot of different situations in my life. And it wasn't until I actually went out and did something. I've realized this at a younger age, that I had to actually do something for it to change. Because I remember even when I got out of high school and I was going to college and I was working full time on top of everything, I was like, well, nothing was just working out. And so I ended up quitting college, and I was working a bunch of other different jobs. I ended up in a security job it was a decent job, but it wasn't fulfilling to me. And obviously I wasn't barely even scraping by just to make a living. And that being said, I was like, I can't live like this. But there were many nights that, I wish and I hoped that something would happen, something better just would happen. I was getting to the point where I was, calling up radio shows, hopefully like trying to win the $1,000 that they were giving away a week. Or, I was doing all kinds of other stuff, contemplating about other different jobs, career fields, thinking about doing DJ work. I was thinking about doing all different kinds of stuff just to try to make something happen, make something work. And it was overwhelming. And so for myself, I had to make a change. And I knew where I wasn't going to be the place to do it. And my dad, my father, he said, "Why don't you come out to New York, and you can stay here, go back to college, and pick up a job." And so I thought, because after this time, it was almost about a year, 2 years. I would say it was probably about a year and a half since um, I originally stopped going to college, and I was like, well, if I got to do it, I need to do it now. And so I took up on the offer, and then I started working in essentially an installation truck factory, essentially doing the installation and cutting cardboard every single day. And I got that idea again, like, this isn't where I wanted. I didn't move here to do this. Like, it's not the same. I was like, the change I made isn't big enough. And so I think I was there for maybe 2 months, 3 months. I got that job probably about 3 weeks when I moved up there, 3, 4 weeks after I moved up there. And it wasn't doing it enough. And so I decided, well, I can't do this. I got to do something bigger. I got to take bigger action. What can I do? And around that time, it was 9/11. And before I was considering going in the military. And I was like, that is the only thing that's going to change my current position. I'm only going to get leverage if I go in there. And so I sucked it up, and I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go. Whatever happens, happens at this point, because I don't like where I am. I don't like the situation I am. I don't like going in because of the current situation in the world. But you know what? I'm just going to go, because if I don't do something now, it's not going to change. Even I took that action and moved across country, it didn't work. And so I kept trying. And so remembering that and coming into this year, coming in and proving to myself that I could do it to an extent, I said, well, if I can do this full time, I could do even better. And coming into this year, I jumped into entrepreneurship. And I don't know what it was. I was sitting there in my cube like everybody else. Actually, at this point, it wasn't in my cube because I was sitting at home because it was remote at that time, beginning of the year. And so saying that, there's talk about people coming back to the office, and I just didn't want that. I didn't want to have to drive and sit in traffic for 2 hours a day, or it wasn't every day, but it was 2 days out of the week. For most people, for me, it was 5 days a week. And I just didn't want to do that. Like, those 2 hours, I could be doing something else for myself. I could be improving myself. How can I do that? Like, I've read like so many self-help books about how to be more efficient with your time. I can do this. And at the time, I was doing extremely well at my job. I was doing really well. I was getting promoted, and I was hitting every stride. Like, there was essentially no stopping me. And for me, there was something inside that was stopping me. Like, this wasn't what I wanted to do. Like, people wanted me to put me in positions that I didn't want to be in. I didn't want the responsibility, because if I was going to take on the responsibility, I wanted it for myself, not for somebody else. And so that was the decision. I came in, and work was almost making me sick. Like, I just didn't want to be there. Like, I felt like I wasn't doing enough work because my mind was in other places, other things I wanted to do. And so I took that leap, and it was scary initially. Like, am I really going to go through with this? And I did. And it was such a relief. It was such an empowering feeling. But then the reality hits after a while, and you're like, okay, well, I rely on myself. But I realized, this whole year, there's been ups and downs. You have to understand, as entrepreneurship is not flashy or awesome. There's goods and there's bads. You are solely responsible for everything. And there's goods and bads. There's pros and cons that come with that. And ups and downs. There's more ups and downs than maybe, and particularly for a job. But you realize, if this is something you really want, you really have to enjoy what it is you do. You really have to find something that leverages what you have, and then go with that passion. And this year has been all about like passion for me. First, it was, doing active investments with equities. And then I started getting into crypto in the beginning of the year, which was really interesting. And then I heard about NFTs. I didn't jump on that bandwagon because that would have been an awesome story. Talking about Bored Apes and everything. I remember when they first got minted, and thinking about that and NFTs, and I was like, "There's no way I'm paying for that." I think at the time it was only a couple $100. Now they're hundreds of thousands of dollars for just the lowest price one. So being said, a couple of time passed, and then Bored Apes blew up, and then I was like, not again. And so I started looking and getting into NFTs, and it created this whole new uh, realm of possibilities, just crypto in general and the space in general. Like, it wanted me to get back into coding. It wanted me, but when I started thinking about that, I started getting into the fact of the art behind things and how much I loved art. And it brought me back to when I was a kid. Because when I was a kid in high school, even just growing up, I used to draw all the time. And a lot of people didn't really know that about me, is I drew all the time. Even my kids enjoy my drawing, and they want me to draw all the time. That's the only time I would really draw. But as a kid, I was drawing a lot. And then when I was in high school, I was doing a lot of Photoshop on different things. And I used to go on like chats where people would give you their avatar, and then they would want you to do like edits on it. And so I used to do that for like the longest time when I was in high school. And I enjoyed doing that a lot, and I wanted to do that. And I've had many teachers throughout my younger years tell me that I should have gotten design at a young age. But again, my father told me, don't do that. Like, there's no money in that. Why would you do that? You can't support a family off of that. And so I kind of just let that dream die. And then now this year, it's been kind of like resurrected in thinking about the possibilities of art, and then thinking about everything that has been going on with technology. I'm not trying to make this all about technology, but realize that I'm just trying to show you how I've been essentially going after my the natural instincts that we have, in going with the flow and seeing where it takes you. And it's led me into NFTs and designing NFTs, and then finding a really great community of tight-knit people. I mean, really tight-knit people. I haven't seen tight-knit people like this since like the military. And it's like family and people helping each other out. I mean, they're complete strangers helping each other out, and banding together, and teaching each other all different kinds of things, and pitfalls and everything like that. And realizing that, this is, for some reason, I've been brought here out of everything, and then looking back at everything and realizing that it's all making sense. And so this year, it started out with a solid plan. That's what I'm saying. Like, you should have some plan for the year, but you have to realize that's going to change. Ultimately, what I always reiterate is your foundation needs to be solid. Like, there's certain things, like your health really matters. Like, you should always be taking care of your health because it affects your mind. So those things that you eat, your exercise, all those things, they need to be taken into account to help you build a foundation and build motivation, and then being curious and getting into stuff. Even though I was busy with a lot of other stuff, I started doing different things. I was testing out different things. I tested out the course. It failed. And so now I started looking at other things, right? I gave it some time, and I try to do it. I don't think I put forth as much effort as I probably could have done, but I gave it some sort of shot. And again, that didn't match who I was. And I was realizing that, okay, this isn't who I am. So this isn't really going to work in that aspect of it. And so what I did was I just followed that instinct, and then I tried to gather all my resources for my active investing, because you have to realize that even for that takes a lot of focus and time, on that. And doing the podcast and everything was something I wanted to continue this year, and I've been doing that, and that's been great. I really enjoyed that. Really met some amazing people through the podcast, and just their story have really inspired me. Even for myself, I didn't want to create the podcast to keep inspiring you, because you need to get to a point to where you start taking action. And when you start taking action, things get done. And it's being curious and finding out. And again, when I start looking at like the NFTs and where I am now, it's looking at that stuff and like, man, if I didn't just go with it, because a lot of times it just doesn't seem like you have enough time for it, but it's like, well, I'm curious, I should give it some time. And so I started doing that and realized, wow, the opportunity here for me to bring back my artistic side and actually leverage that to be able to do essentially also with my active investing, right? And realize that these two things have really brought a lot of joy into my life. It's given me a lot of freedom, and it's given me that creative part that I've always loved, because the things that I've always loved creating, whatever that is, whether that's through drawing, doing YouTube videos, podcasting, or um, building and building programs and stuff like that. It's always being able to create is just amazing and astonishing. One of the things I've truly enjoyed throughout my whole life, and I've done different variations of that throughout my life. And so this year again has really been a year of focusing on intuition and where will it take me next. And so that is my biggest lesson that I've learned this year is to focus on intuition, realize that things won't make sense. They do later, they will eventually. Everything up to this point, and things have been pieced together that are making a lot of sense on some other things that didn't make sense in the past. And so going into the next year, what I want you to do is follow that intuition. Know you're never going to be ready. Know that moment will never come where you're going to be like, okay, well now this is the moment where I can do it. There's never that moment just doesn't come. There's never a moment that comes that says, this is the time. This is the time I have to do it. It's not black and white. It is very much a gray area, and it is up to you to take action. I'm not saying you have to take big, bold action at first. I've never taken big, bold action all the time. I started out small enough to gain confidence to realize that in myself, if I follow intuition, it will play out. I just have to stick with it. And so when you're going into this next year, even for myself, it's still following that intuition, still doing that intuition. Why did you do this? Why did you start this? Things, you can always go back to things. Like I can always go back to a job. I'm not worried about that. If things get bad, I can always just go back. And you have to think of it that way. It's never too late. You can always go back to the old way of life. But you have to realize that you didn't like that old way. That's why you're changing it now. And that is really why this new year, I want to see where NFTs go. I want to see what I can do with it. I want to see if I start building out other different applications for crypto. And it's not just for crypto and cryptocurrencies, but understand that the technology behind everything is truly amazing and fast, and start thinking about Metaverse stuff. And I started picking up, it's funny because I just started picking up 3D modeling the other day, and I was like, man, this is so cool to be able to program stuff in or essentially mold stuff in 3D art, and then be able to take that and create a movie or create a game, and then you use the NFTs to adapt to these different things, and it's just amazing. And the way the world is going towards that way, and realizing that your Facebooks of the world, your Apples, your Microsofts, right? All these big corporations are putting billions of dollars into the metaverse now, because eventually, very soon, this is going to be our lives. And I want to be an architect because I love to build things. I would love to be an architect in that environment, be the creator in creating things that people find joy in. I mean, that's like the ultimate thing, is being the architect and being able to build something like that for people that really bring them joy. And just doing NFTs, I can see that in people and the joy they get out of it. And it's just astonishing and amazing, and why I love it so much, because I love to make people's days. I love to bring joy into people's lives. And through it all is, and just being humble and being nice and being kind and showing people that they have value. This is why I do Discover at Night, because I love to bring those things to people. And this is why I do the things I do. And a lot of times it doesn't make sense, but I have to come at everything with, it will eventually make sense. Intuition is where you need to be. Intuition is where you need to follow. Take action, take big action. You don't take big action. And I know this, probably, if you've been in this space, I'm sure you've heard it, but I'm telling you, you have to take the action to be able to create the things that you want, to be able to get to the places that you want. And right now, I'm doing two of the biggest things I truly love to do. I love active investing, and I love art, and being able to do that and share my art with other people, and seeing other people get joy out of my art or out of my creations is phenomenal. And I truly love it. And I didn't think that was possible, because at one point in my life, somebody told me it wasn't worth it. And so I thought I could do nothing with it. So don't ever let your dreams die. Continue on going into the next year. What are you going for? My goals, again, for this year are intuition and going for the NFTs and art and Metaverse and 3D modeling. And where is that going to take me? Where will it take me? I don't know, but it's exciting. And I want to live that passion each and every day, and continue active investing, because that's one of the things I love to death too. Two things I love, right? Aside from my family, right? You have to understand what are the one, two, or maybe even three things that you really love, and just focus on them. And you have to realize that on top of everything, you should still be learning. You should still be reading, getting new perspectives, experiencing new things. That opens up you to other opportunities, to something that's even better. Like for myself, like NFTs, I again thought that it'd be just a fad, and then I started getting into it and really understanding what it was about. And this is why I say not to just look at stuff surface level. You have to go very deep and understand what it's about. And then it takes you to other places that you've never thought were possible, and you start really enjoying life. And then don't let it hold back. Right? Maybe you have to downgrade your house. Maybe you have to downgrade your lifestyle. But isn't your happiness, your mindset, what you want? I'm not saying you even have to do that. There's other ways you can do what you want. I was a programmer. I found a way. There are ways to do it. You have to be willing to sacrifice nights. You have to be willing to do things to be able to get to where you want. But it is very much possible. Maybe you enjoy going to work. As long as you are happy with your situation, with what you do on a daily basis, that is what matters. If you really enjoy that, then you are perfectly fine. If not, then you know where to look. You know what to do. And go into this new year, have some kind of infrastructure of what you want to do. Again, focus foundation, and then think about a couple of things that you want to get done this year. And really focus on that. And are you taking the action every day to get you one step closer? Because that's what it ultimately takes. It takes action, some small action each and every day that piles up, that creates the thing that you truly want. So go out there and ignite that change.